Good morning, everybody. Is it morning for you? Maybe it's afternoon. Maybe it's evening. Anyway, it's morning for me. I've had my coffee. It's almost December 31st, almost 2024. And we are here today because we're going to talk about breaking the habit of staying stuck. Thanks for coming on. First off, where is everybody coming from? Type in the chat where you guys are. I recognize some names here, and we got more people joining. We had a lot of last minute registration, so we'll get started here in a minute here. Sweden, yes. Montreal, Northern Ireland. Hey, Andrea, cool. Anybody else? Ireland, US. Oh, yeah, Sophie Borgel via US. Megan, my friend, how are you? Where's Megan? Is she on screen, off camera? She's off camera. Adirondack Mountains, upstate New York. Been there, done that. My friend Stephen Guelph. Good. Well, listen, I want to just cover a couple housekeeping guys before we get into the class today. We're gonna give you guys a free gift for showing up near the end. Tyson's gonna drop a link for you, so stick around for that. And I just want to let you guys know I'm going to be hosting these classes on a regular basis. We call them Self-Help Made Better. I was trying to come up with a title that I liked, and I was thinking to myself, it seems more confusing than ever out there. People are just trying to get ahead. And the self-help, in my opinion, the self-help world seems to be doing actually more harm than good. It's like I created these self-help classes because I want to give you simple, straightforward answers and lessons on how to build a life that you're proud of. I think it's really confusing out there. There's a lot of information. We have such easy access to information. And it's really easy to get confused. And I don't think it's that hard. I know I was confused for a long time, and I got frustrated. Maybe you feel the same way because I'm thinking, man, oh man, this has got to be easier. Or like I feel like I'm a pretty bright guy, and I've done well in my life. I'm thinking, why is this so friggin' confusing and complicated? So I wanted to put these classes together just to try to give you guys simple things that actually work. Cut through the crap. If any of you know me, I'm very direct. I don't like screwing around with the fluffy words. And this call is not here meant to motivate you, although you will be motivated by the end. There's nothing worse than being motivated, especially if you're going the wrong direction. And so I wanted to bring these classes to you, just really try to give you simple things to do, actionable items that are actually going to make a difference for you. And so that's the purpose of these classes. We're going to run them every couple of weeks. So keep an eye on your email. You're on our email list, obviously, if you're here. And we'll invite you to those on a regular basis. I think our next one is actually 2 weeks from today. We're not sure if we're going to run them on Saturdays or during the week. In fact, actually, I was going to do a quick poll if you guys don't mind. If you wouldn't mind, just open up the chat and type a 1 in the chat if you prefer Saturdays, or type a 2 in the chat if you prefer weekdays. What's your preference? We just want to meet, obviously, as many people's calendars as we can. Ones, twos, ones, twos, ones. Well, we may even rotate it around. We're going to try it. We're going to run these for a while, and we'll try some different dates and times. And of course, if you register, we'll give you the replay as well in case you have to hop off earlier or can't make it at all. So let's start. All right, let's talk about the habit of let's talk about breaking the habit of getting unstuck. So I want to explain to you why most New Year's resolutions fail, and 3 mistakes to avoid in 2024. So this year is better. I'm not a big fan of New Year's Eve. I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions. I want to talk today about the whole resolution idea. It's funny, I was looking up. I like looking things up. The origin of words and the origin of customs. We are so habitual as humans. These days, especially, we're so easily locked into narratives. Your phone feeds you a lot of narratives, a lot of information. Anyway, I looked up the origin of New Year's Eve, or New Year's resolutions, rather. You should check it out. It's quite interesting. In fact, the origin of it, how it started, is back in the days of the ancient Babylonians. And then the purpose of the New Year's resolutions actually transitions over time. It's quite interesting to take a look at. I was kind of laughing to myself. I'm thinking, it's such a narrative in North America. Not everybody's here from North America, but I think it's all around the world. It's such a narrative. It's the end of the new year, and this is it, man. 2024, like this is gonna be my year. I mean, this is it. I'm gonna crush it. And we set resolutions and we make promises and like this is going to be it. And then of course there's all kinds of people, out there in the marketplace making promises to you that your year is going to be better. And I'm not one of those guys. Okay. I'm not going to come on here and pump you up and rally you up and, tell you everything's going to be fantastic and your year's going to be great. And, you can do it. You can make 2024 better. But I've spent so many years trying to figure out success, followed all kinds of people, did all kinds of things, struggled a lot. And then I finally figured it out. And I'm now on a mission just really to cut through the crap, give it to you straight, and do my best to help you make your this year better, but also build a life that you're proud of. So I know you want next year to be better. You want to build a life that you're proud of and do the things you want to do, enjoy your life, have peace of mind. I think most people just want, some level of prosperity in their life and peace of mind that you can go out and do the things you like to do and spend time with your loved ones and enjoy things you like doing, help other people, etc. But the problem is we can't seem to make the changes that we need or want. We have lots of ideas of I want to do this and I want to change this. I want to stop this and I want to start that. And it's frustrating. And then when you aren't able to do that, I mean, I'm looking around the screen. You all look like all fairly mature adults, maybe not as mature as me, but fairly mature. And I'm kidding. I look young for 70, but I think let me see how my wrinkles are doing. I'm good. Yeah. Listen, you're trying to make these changes, and you're adults, and you're obviously have intelligence, and maybe you're like me, going, "This is like, what the hell's the problem here?" Because it shouldn't be so friggin' hard. And so we want to make these changes, we want to make these improvements, but it doesn't happen. And then what happens is we doubt ourselves and we don't believe in ourselves, and then we turn on ourselves. And so today I want to talk to you about one single resolution that you can make that will change everything. So first up, I want to talk about the three mistakes that you're likely making. Maybe you're not making all of them. Maybe you're making none of them. Hopefully you're not. But these are probably what I seem to see to be the three most common mistakes people make. And I want to talk to you about how you can avoid them. So this whole lesson today is based on this quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. I don't know if you heard it or not. You're going to hear me say it a few times throughout this class. He said, of what use to make heroic vows of amendment if the same old lawbreaker is to keep them? Of what use to make heroic vows of amendment if the same old lawbreaker is to keep them? So what does he mean by that? Well, what he's saying is you're the lawbreaker, okay? You say, what's the point of making these heroic vows of amendment? What's the point of making these promises to change? What's the point of making these resolutions that I'm going to start doing that, I'm going to stop doing that? What's the point in doing that if the same old lawmaker is the one that has to keep them? In other words, if you don't change, things don't change. Okay? If you don't change, things don't change. So what do we have to do? What we've got to do is you have to learn, what I call learn, unlearn, and relearn. And what we got to do is we got to get rid of some of these beliefs and habits that are driving our behaviors. Okay? We're very habitual. It's ironic, because I know many of you. I mean, I know many of you personally too. I know many of you want to form some new habits. You want to change some habits up. You want to. I'm gonna cut back on alcohol, or I'm not gonna go on my phone on social media at night, or whatever these habits are. It's very ironic that you want to form these new habits, but we don't like our habits being disrupted. Just try to change anybody's habitual behavior, and they will not like it. If anybody tries to change your habitual behavior, you don't like it. So it's ironic. You want to form habits, yet you don't like your habitual behavior being interrupted, right? And so it's very confusing. You're trying to you're. I think we've been conned. One of the chapters in my book is called "The Big Con." Okay, and when I looked up the origin of New Year's resolutions, I thought, man, oh man, have we ever been conned in this whole New Year's Eve, New Year's resolution thing? It's a big con. We've been conned into all kinds of things, and I think we've been conned into um, uh, our approach to habits. Um, I don't know about you, but I don't really know a lot of people. I know a few people, but I don't know a lot of people when I was growing up that were very good at forming habits or keeping habits. That's for sure. And so my experience and my witnessing, I got conned into believing that I got conned to a story I just don't think is actually even true. So let's talk about these three mistakes. All right. First, what we got to do is if we want to make heroic vows of amendment, okay, then you, the lawbreaker, has to change. And I'm going to explain to you because I don't think it's your fault that you're the lawbreaker. All right. So I'm going to let you off the hook. You're still responsible. Okay. But I'm going to let you off the hook because I don't think it's your fault that you're the lawbreaker. I think you were formed that way. I think you were raised that way. I think you were brought up with a bunch of stuff that you believe, and you form habits, and all your beliefs form your behaviors. Okay. And so if you want to change your behavior, that's ultimately your behavior, the way you behave. So you do things that are habitual, you think things that are habitual, you feel things that are habitual. Everything you do primarily is habitual. And so if you want to undo those behaviors, you're going to have to undo some things that you believe. That's how you do this. Okay. Now I'm going to give you some other tips on habit forming that'll help because some of you aren't ready to change. Some of you are not ready to change, and that's okay. I don't think anybody should change or has to change. You should only change if you want to change. But I'm telling you, of what used to make heroic vows of amendment, it's the same old lawbreakers that keep them. If you want to really make changes in your life, there's some things you're doing that's not good for you. I know it. There's some things you're doing that aren't good for other people. And there's things that you could be doing that would improve your life, and there's some things you shouldn't be doing that would is harming yourself or harming you trying to get ahead. All right, so we've got to change. We have to change. You have to change if you're going to make these heroic vows of amendment. But we'll talk about that. So let's talk about some of these mistakes. All right. And listen, again, I'm going to warn you for some people on here, I don't recognize your name. It might be the first time you hear it. I always warn people. I'm very direct. I just get right to the point. I don't like wasting time. We only have until 10 o'clock, so I got a lot of ground to cover by 10 a.m. But life is short. Like the clock is ticking. Another year has gone by. I just turned 60 in October, and I always say, like, I'm on the last season of my life. I mean, statistically, I might have another, I don't know, 20, 30 years. I'll be here longer than that, but statistically, I'll beat the stats, But I think about that. I think, man, oh man, like life is really short, and all we have is time, and the time is ticking away. And so I'm not here to sugarcoat things. I'm not here to get you to like me. I don't really care. I'm just here to give you some information. I'd rather piss you off and give you an idea that helps you rather than fluff around and just try to get you to like me. A lot of people actually don't like me in the beginning. I hear that all the time. Like, I didn't like you when I first met you, Doug, but now I love you. Listen, I'm a straight shooter. I'm very passionate about helping people. I care deeply about people, and I spend my day all day, every day, just doing whatever I can to help people. And so I'm going to give it to you my way. And if you don't like it my way, you can always just click the little red button in the bottom right-hand thing, and then you can go off and Happy New Year. All right. But let's talk about these three mistakes. All right. So number one, you're making promises you can't keep and won't keep. And it ends up undermining your opinion of yourself and your self-confidence. Okay. And you end up saying, what's the point? So again, what used to make these heroic vows of amendment? Like, if I were you, I wouldn't make New Year's resolutions. I would not be making these heroic vows of amendment to yourself or to others that you won't keep. Like, it's almost like if you're gonna make a commitment to form a habit, you got to just know, like, it's done. Like, you're going to do it. There's no question of whether it's going to stick or not. You just know. Now I'm going to talk to you about how you can get to that point where you just know that you'll pull something off. You don't even have to actually start forming the habit. In fact, I'm going to give you a different strategy that's way easier, that's basically effortless, and you don't even have to attempt to form a new habit, but you will form a new habit with this method. Okay. So one mistake people make is you make promises you can't keep or you won't keep. And what it does, it's undermining your own self-image. Okay. When you make promises to yourself and you don't keep them, you might not be conscious of it, but when you make promises you can't keep, you're eroding your integrity. Okay. Listen, when we arrived here, we were filled with love and integrity. All right. Now, you might know some people that don't operate with a whole lot of integrity. You may be like me and have not operated with integrity in the past. I mean, because of where I came from, because of my past, it was not filled with integrity and love. It was completely the opposite. And so I learned some pretty bad things. Had some pretty bad beliefs, had a pretty lousy attitude and perception of myself, and of course, that caused me to make a lot of mistakes. But I turned that all around when I finally figured out why I was doing that and how that all got formed, my mistaken identity, I call it. Then I was able to flip the switch on that. And so I try to avoid making promises I can't keep, because if I don't keep them, it erodes my self-worth, it erodes my integrity, it erodes my self-confidence. So you're setting yourself up to really minimize your capability, because you minimize your own self-worth. You're eroding it by doing that. So why would you do something that's going to make you feel lousy about yourself? Okay. I think some of you do enough of that as it is. I don't think you have to add any more on. Okay. And so don't make promises that you can't keep or you won't keep. Now, some of you coming on here go, well, this is supposed to be a New Year's resolutions and forming habits. And he's telling me not to make any promises. Well, I'm going to go on here. Number two, when you set out to form new habits or resolve to make changes, you judge yourself and criticize yourself. And if you've made promises to others, that also erodes your self-worth. So a very common habit in forming new habits is that you judge yourself and you criticize yourself when you don't form the habit, right? I mean, you'll start out, let's say you set some resolutions, maybe you've already done that. Maybe start over. It often starts right after Christmas, like me, I ate way too much over Christmas. People eat too much and they drink too much and they sleep too much and whatever they do. And it's almost like when Christmas is over and the food is done, then you say, I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to start eating better. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to start eating better, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop that. I'm going to do that. And so then you start, right? And you get one day under your belt. Good for you. And you get 2 days under your belt. What are we at now? 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So you might have 5 days under your belt now. Okay. But very quickly, you skip. It could just be simply you forget because habits are just automatic. Habits you don't have to think about. Okay. You don't have to think about brushing your teeth in the morning or making the bed. You just do these things automatically. So when you form these habits, oftentimes you just forget. But when you forget or when you skip, then you judge yourself and you criticize yourself and you give yourself a hard time. Now, why do you do that? Why do you give yourself a hard time when you're trying to form a positive habit? Well, you do that because that's how you were treated when you were young. Okay, when you were little, most of us didn't get a whole lot of encouragement. Okay. We got a whole lot of punishment, or maybe we got teased, or, maybe our parents said, you're being bad, or you're a bad little boy, whatever it is, right? We didn't get a whole lot of praise growing up. We definitely didn't get enough. And for those of you that are sensitive, So some people are very sensing. And they probably, when they had a young age, they probably needed more of that encouragement, or they were very sensitive. Like literally a teacher, a parent, an adult, somebody could just cut you down with one set of words and like cut you down for a long time, because you're sensitive, right? And so you've been taught to judge yourself. You've been taught to criticize yourself, and you didn't really get a whole lot of encouragement forming habits. Generally, if you didn't form the habits, and the habits you were supposed to form when you were little was to follow the rules, right? If you didn't follow the rules, generally we got in trouble. If we really broke the rules, maybe you got grounded or sent to your room or skipped dinner. I don't know what they did in the old days, but anyway, you got judged and criticized, and that's why you do it to yourself. And so you're not going to form habits that stick if you're in the habit of judging and criticizing yourself. Now, just wave your hand on the screen if you do that to yourself. Okay, for those of you that are on camera, wave your hand, please. All right, everybody wave their hand. Thank you. There's not anybody on this call that's immune. Okay. Listen, I have a very strong mindset, very strong. Do I give myself a hard time sometimes? Absolutely. Right. The difference is the guy that's doing the judging, the criticizing, he doesn't have a whole lot of credo with me, my mistaken identity, my ego self. He makes shit up once in a while, but I generally don't listen to him too much. He's babbling in the background. Number three, you lie to yourself and others that you will change. Now, I'm not saying that you're a liar. One of the chapters in my book is called "You're a Liar." I was taught to lie, and originally I was taught to lie really to stay safe. I was taught to lie because the police were always at our door because my parents were always having these fights all the time, and we had to lie to the police and lie to the neighbors, and I had to lie to my teachers. I was brought up to be a liar, so I'm not saying that you're a liar per se, but you do lie to yourself that you're going to change. Again, if you go back to that quote of what used to make heroic vows of amendment, if the same old lawbreaker is to keep them. And so you're the lawbreaker. And if you're making promises, you're saying to yourself that you're going to change and you don't, okay, that is going to eat away at you as well. And so what it does is that it creates more doubt. It's when you're trying to form habits, you're actually lying to your subconscious. No, now some of you believe that you can actually just lie to your subconscious, and I can just write an affirmation, and I'm going to start doing this, or I'm going to stop doing that, or I'm going to create this, or whatever. You can't lie to your subconscious. Now, your subconscious is amoral. It's wide open. It doesn't have the ability to accept or reject ideas. Okay. But there could be other ideas deep in your subconscious that go against the very thing that you're trying to program your subconscious to. Okay. And so I don't think a lot of people in the self-help industry took into account for the idea that 60% of adults have suffered what's called adverse childhood experiences where they were mistreated, treated poorly, abused, whatever. They grew up with some real issues of self-esteem and self-worth, inferiority complexes. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you were told in the way that you were treated that really minimized and eroded your own self-worth. And so if that's below the surface, okay, and you're trying to lie to your subconscious that you're going to change, and then you don't, it's a vicious circle because now you're continuing to feed this idea that you're not good enough or you don't deserve it. Oh, see, I told you you'd never do it, Doug. You got that voice, that inner voice that's always talking to you. I don't know if you guys ever pay attention to that voice or not. It's always going off in the back of your head. Sometimes you're aware of it, but it will punish you. Your ego will punish you. It will judge you. It will criticize you. Your mistaken identity will take any opportunity to give you a hard time. Okay. And so if you make promises you can't keep, if you set out to form habits and you can't make them stick, and then you judge yourself or criticize yourself while you're trying to make these habits stick, or if you lie to yourself or others that you're going to change, you're working against yourself. I don't think very few people have much idea of how much harm you're doing to yourself. Now, some of you might be very aware, you might be doing something physically. You might be, I don't know, I meet all kinds of people with all kinds of problems, coping mechanisms that they turn to. But I'm not necessarily talking about physically, but that's included for sure. But we definitely really give ourselves a hard time and punish ourselves and really causing ourselves lots of problems. And I'm going to talk to you about some of the outside influences that are feeding that. So the bottom line is you form the habit of staying stuck. Okay. Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like I'm friggin' stuck, like really stuck, and I've been stuck for a long time. And one being I'm free. Type in the chat, where are you at on the level of being stuck? What number would you say you're at? All right, we got a 1. That's good to see. Ricky, I don't know what the hell you're doing here, but I'll try to help you out while you're here. Lots of high numbers, right? So listen, we follow all these habits and traditions without question. We follow a lot of things without question. So like I said, look up the origin of New Year's resolutions, and you'll have a good chuckle to yourself. There's so many things that we follow without question. We see things, we read things, we buy books, we come on webinars, we watch the news, we go on social media. It's so easy for these narratives to get into our head. So if you want this year to be better, you're going to have to change. That's the bottom line. And just stop making promises you can't keep. So I'm gonna go down 2 roads here. I'm gonna go down a little bit later. I'm gonna share one road, which is for those of you that don't want to change right now. Okay, and that's fine. I'd rather you just decide, you know what, I'm not going to change. I'm just going to relax this year. I'm going to lighten up. So I'm going to give you a few suggestions if that's the road you want to take. And then I'm going to give you a few suggestions if you want to actually make the change, if you want to stop being this lawbreaker. So let's talk about the real problem and the root cause. And of course, if any of you know me or any of you have my book, the root cause is your mistaken identity. That is the bottom line. This lawmaker or lawbreaker, I should say, that Emerson talked about, that's your mistaken identity. Okay. Now, I don't believe it's your fault that you're staying stuck. Okay. You got to get a few things straight. All right. Your self-image runs your life. And you're mistaken about who you are and who you're not. Right. So when I talk about your mistaken identity, it's how you see yourself. So we all have what's called a self-image, an image of ourself. We portray ourselves to the outside world with the way that we present ourselves, the way we talk and dress and show up. Now, that's our outer image, but then we also have an inner image, our opinion of ourselves, how we see ourselves. And I think you're mistaken about yourself. I think you're mistaken about who you are, and I think you're mistaken about who you're not. And it's not actually your fault. Now, what we've got to do is we've got to get really clear here on how our mind works. All right. Now, there's all kinds of information out there about how the mind works and mindset. I mean, if you Google the word mindset, man, oh man, you would get millions of hits, I'm sure. It's like if you type in law of attraction or manifestation, I mean, very popular keywords online. But a lot of people don't really understand how their mind works at all. I mean, they can tell me how their mind works. Like I'm sure that you could probably come on here and quote some words of others, and you could say the mind works this way and the mind works that way. But that doesn't mean you actually know how it works. Meaning that doesn't mean you're operating your mind properly. Okay. So number one, you got to get really clear is your mind is a machine. Okay. There's a great book you hear me talk about all the time. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. If you haven't read it and you want to get control of your mind and get control of your life, that would be a book that I would read. Okay. Now I took some things I learned from studying Maltz. I've studied him for years. And I brought some of what I felt to be the key simple points to really changing your life and ridding yourself of your mistaken identity. And I put it inside my book. So we've got this machine. And like all machines, it operates a certain way. Now, you're the operator of the machine. Okay. Um, it's the machine that does the work, not you. Okay. Like I'm on a machine right now. I'm talking to you through this computer. I'm looking at you right now. There's a green light right beside the camera. I'm looking at you right now. And I'm operating this machine, but it's the machine that's doing all the work. Like I'm hands-free. I'm just talking, but it's the machine that's broadcasting this image and this voice and other people on this call here in Zoom. Okay, the Zoom application, the internet, all that is doing the work. Okay, but I'm the operator. I'm the guy that directs it. Well, that's what your mind is like. Okay, and your mind is an automatic goal-seeking mechanism. Okay, and it's constantly scanning your environment. Okay, it's constantly scanning and seeking out targets where it should go. Okay. Now, if you see a lot of people wandering through life aimlessly, it's because they don't know how their mind works. Okay. They're not pointed in any single direction. Okay. Now, the beautiful thing about this machine is it's automatic, it's goal seeking. It will provide you with the means and the ways to get to where you want. And this machine also directs your brain and your nervous system. Okay. And so I wasn't thinking real great. I certainly wasn't feeling really great. So if you got things running through your head that aren't that positive, like if you're really stuck and you're giving yourself a hard time and you criticize yourself and you doubt yourself and you punish yourself, if you're suffering in life in any way, shape, or form, I believe you have a mistaken identity. Okay. And that mistaken identity is running the machine. So what runs the machine is the self-image. Okay. Right. You direct the machine through your thinking. But if your self-image, if your mistaken identity is off track, okay, if you see yourself the wrong way, right, if you have negative feelings towards yourself, if you're judgmental, if you carry around shame and guilt and self-loathing and resentment and all these negative emotions, that's obviously going to screw up the machine. Okay. And it's going to screw up your life. Right. So we got to get control of our mind. We got to learn how this thing works. And we're the operator. And so we have to operate it properly. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole mindset piece today. I might drop a few things in here to give you a few tips on how to do this the right way. It's not really complicated. I thought it was really complicated. It's actually quite simple. Your mind is a very complex machine, but it's actually quite simple to operate. Just like, this MacBook or my iPhone, very complex machine. I could never build one of these. It's very complex, but it's very simple to operate. Right? Your mind is a very complex machine, and it's very simple to operate. All you got to do is just follow some basic operating rules. All right. So real quick, if our mistaken identity is really the root cause of our problems, and we're trying to form these habits, and we're trying to resolve, make resolutions, make heroic vows of amendment, as Emerson said. If we want to actually make these things happen, then we have to be the ones that change. If we change, your habits will change. In fact, I'm going to show you a little thing you can do. It's so simple and easy. You'll start forming habits automatically, almost unconsciously, without even choosing. Okay, and I'll explain that. So let's just quickly touch on what is a mistaken identity. So basically, as I said, you have this image of yourself, and primarily you're mistaken. When you were little, you arrived here, a little baby boy, little baby girl, filled with love and integrity, and fairly quickly you became this imitation. You started imitating the adults. You were watching what they were doing, and so you started speaking their language or attempting to. Started eating the same food as they did. You basically imitated the parents, the older people, the adults in your life. And then when the parents got your attention and they knew that they could communicate with you, then they started feeding you information. Okay. And one of the chapters in my book is called Poison. They started feeding you a lot of poison. They started dumping a lot of things down your throat that was just not good for you. Okay. And they fed you rules, values, beliefs, biases, prejudice, all kinds of things they fed into you. Some of you were in the environment with your parents, and you're watching them operate, and you're watching some of the things they say and do, and you actually took it very personally. Okay, you actually thought it was about you, right? And you start to doubt yourself. And what they did is they judged you. They judged you if you did well, and they judged you if you didn't do well. Usually, you probably got more of the latter. You probably got a lot more judgment and criticism than you got praise. Maybe you lucky enough you grew up in a family where you got lots of praise and lots of encouragement. I was talking to somebody the other day. They grew up in a family, a very good family, wonderful parents, wonderful, loving parents, and they're still struggling, and they didn't understand why. And we have these mistaken identities not just because we've had a poor childhood. Like, you don't have to go through a poor childhood like I did. You could have a normal childhood and you still have a mistaken identity, because the parents that were programming you and trying to guide you and drill in these rules, values, and beliefs, the way that they programmed you and the way they treated you caused them to have an image of you. They saw you a certain way. And so, of course, how they see you, and this is how self-image works. You always treat people the way that you see them. Okay. You treat some people not very nice because of the way you see them. You're judgmental of some people because of the way that you view them. Right. And so your parents saw you a certain way, and they operated towards you a certain way. And based on how they saw you is how you began to see yourself. And then you acted like that person. All right. And then you got a response from other people to confirm you were that person. And around you go. So if you feel like you're kind of spinning around in life, it's because you're locked in this vicious circle of a mistaken identity, and you've got this image of yourself that just is not true. And you have lots of limits on yourself. I kind of bug the self-help world. I'm kind of tired of the self-help world telling you can do anything you want. You can't do anything you want. You can do anything you want within reason of who you actually are. Okay. And that's what we got to get straight, right? Within reason of who we actually are. Now, the problem is you're not a real good judge of your own potential because you've got a mistaken identity, and you got some stuff inside that you might not even be aware of that is actually eroding your perception of yourself. Okay, your capability. So it is true when people say you have no idea what you're capable of. That part is true, right? You also have no idea what you're capable of. Meaning, there's some things you can do and there's some things you can't do. What we got to do is we got to get clear about who we are and what we actually are capable of doing. And so this mistaken identity, you just inherited it, you adopted it, you went with it. It's like, for me, I always describe it's like this tight, scratchy coat that doesn't feel good. It was uncomfortable, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. It just felt wrong. And then I also felt like I had this mask on because I became a really good actor. I was really good at pretending to be somebody I wasn't. Now, lucky for me, I was a good enough actor that pretending to be somebody I wasn't actually helped me succeed. So I had material success. I could have had a hell of a lot more, but I had material success. But on the inside, I didn't like myself, and I surely wasn't treating myself very well. And so this mistaken identity formed your image of yourself. Okay. And so get this straight, right? Your mistaken identity, your self-image is what directs your mind. Okay. It's the guide, it's the governor. It limits what you're capable of doing. It limits how fast you can go. Okay. It limits you to the ideas that you can create. Right. And then you use the image of yourself or the attitude towards yourself as it's a set of information that you use to predict your future. Okay. You look at your current situation, you look at the past, you look at how you feel about yourself, and that is how you set out in the world. And so if you're going to set out into 2024 and you're suffering from mistaken identity and you're still criticizing yourself and judging yourself and doubting yourself and giving yourself a hard time, there's no point in setting these resolutions, because if you don't change that, nothing is going to change. So I'd rather see you just not do that at all. Just don't set yourself up for more judgment and more victimization, right? Do not do that to yourself. So if you're the lawmaker, in his quote, he said, of what used to make heroic vows of men, the same old lawbreaker is to keep them. Well, you are the lawbreaker, but it's not your fault. It was actually the parents and the adults that broke the law. Now they wouldn't really get that. You might not really understand that, what I mean by that, but basically you got programmed with all this stuff, right? And if there was, well, there should be rules on parenting. You should actually have to get a license to be a parent. There should be certain things you must follow in order to raise your children. That would be a good idea, because I think unconsciously, unaware, a lot of parents just break the rules. I broke them. I have a 20-year-old daughter. She's turning 21 in May. I think I did a pretty good job because I learned a bunch of this stuff. I went public with my life story just before she was born. And that was a real wake-up call for me. And that story going public caused me to pivot a bunch of things very, very quickly. And I started operating much, much differently. But I still, like you, we all make these mistakes. So what I'm saying to you is that it's the adult's fault that you're a lawbreaker. Okay, so you can go home and blame your parents. Go, Mom, Dad, I was on this webinar, and the reason I can't set resolutions in 2024 is going to be a shitty year is because it's your fault. You can go. I would go blame the parents just for fun. Just watch their faces. I probably wouldn't do that. I would do that if you could, just for fun. But listen, it's not your parents' fault either. Okay, they just did the best that they could, and I don't care. I don't care how bad your parents were. I had some pretty broken people. I was gonna say I didn't have bad people. I had some pretty broken people as parents. I mean, people would look at them when they see my story. They go, "You had really bad parents." I go, I don't really think I had bad parents. I had broken people for parents. Okay, and their parents were broken. And I went back another generation, and their parents were broken. And so it just gets passed along, right? It's insidious. And it just gets passed along genetically. It gets passed along environmentally. It gets passed along in your DNA. And if you're a lawbreaker and you're not able to make these heroic vows of amendment and keep them, I don't think it's your fault. You were just influenced that way, and you were set up that way. But you're responsible to make the changes. So, how does this impact you day to day in trying to make changes, improvements, and form these positive habits? Okay. Number one, we form the habit of judging ourselves in almost every area of our life. So judgment is just simply a habit, folks. Okay. It's not something you're born with. Okay. You weren't judgmental when you were little. You didn't judge others, and you did not judge yourself. You did not go in the mirror when you were a little baby with your diaper on and take a look and see if your belly was too big or if your diaper fit well. You did not judge yourself when you were little. Okay. And you did not judge others. You just loved each other. You just laughed and played, right? You learned to judge. Okay. You were judged. And then you learned to judge others. You watched the adults judging people. You watched them judging you, your siblings, neighbors, friends, family, whatever, right? And you watch them judge others and judge themselves, and they judge you. And so you just simply formed this habit of judging yourself, and you probably judge yourself in pretty much every area of your life. Chapter 1 of my book, in fact, it probably could be the only chapter. If I could just get you to follow chapter 1, I'm telling you, you'd set yourself free. Chapter 1 is called Stop Judging. All right. You have to end judgment. I remember one day I was meeting with a pastor. He was mentoring me a little bit, and we were having breakfast. I go, I'm on a mission. I'm going to end judgment. He goes, you can't end judgment, Doug. I said, I friggin' well can. I'm on a mission to end judgment. Will I end judgment? No. But maybe I can end judgment for you. Maybe I can end judgment for your family. Maybe I can end judgment for people that you come in contact with. I'm on a mission to end judgment because most of your judgments are negative. I don't know if you guys judge yourself positively all that much. I presume you do to some degree, but generally it's negative. It's like a scale, right? If you had negative judgment on one dish and positive on another, I think the negative would outweigh the positive, right? So you're just in the habit of judging yourself. Andrea, great question. How does one end judgment? All right. Anybody want to know how to end judgment? It's really simple. Okay. Number one, first and foremost, you have to decide you're going to. Okay. You have to decide you're going to. Like I said earlier, there's no point in making resolutions or heroic vows of amendment unless you just know you're going to do it. And that takes decision. I am going to end judgment. Do I still judge people? Absolutely. But I'm very aware that I'm doing it, and I catch myself. I was walking by a young person the other day, and I caught myself judging. I go, no, I'm not going to judge them. Right. So number one, you got to decide you're going to end judgment in your life. Okay, that's the first thing you got to do. Number two, you have to realize that it's simply a habit that you learned. Okay, you have to accept that idea, right? I think you're so judgmental, you're so married to judgment that you think it's actually part of you. It's not part of you. Okay, it's a habit. All right, it's like brushing your teeth. Right, that's all it is. It's just simply a habit. It has been internalized. Okay, but it does not have to be part of you. Right, and so what I talk about in my book, I found the simplest way to end judgment was to practice the habit of not judging others. So I just made my mind up. I was going to end judgment, and I was going to, it was simply a habit that I could break, and I was going to practice not judging other people. Now, that was hard in the beginning for me because I was very judgmental, especially towards myself, not so much to other people. I just shouldn't say always, but for the longest time I can recall, I've always had a heart for people. I've always looked for the good. I've been a kind, caring, sensitive person. I've always tried to help people. So I think I was gifted with that. But of course, I still judge people, and I just try to form the habit of not doing it. Okay. And so the easiest way to stop judgment towards yourself is you stop judging other people. You form the habit. I wouldn't even worry about yourself. Okay. Some of the ways you can form these habits, you don't have to worry about yourself. Yourself will be taken care of. Right. If you just form the habit that I'm going to end judgment and I'm going to stop judging other people. And I have an affirmation. I don't judge anybody for anything. And I just keep repeating that. I don't judge anybody for anything. Do I? Yes, but I keep repeating it. I don't judge anybody for anything. I just keep reminding myself that I'm not going to do that. Just like, my mom said, go make your bed. Go make your bed. Dougie Danes, you make your bed, go make your bed. She just kept telling me, go make my bed. I make my bed every day now. I mean, there's a few things good that I got from my mom. I mean, I make my bed every day. I brush my teeth every day. I got some good from them too, even though they were broken people. And so I just affirm that over and over. And if you can form the habit of not judging others or lessening the amount of judgment, if you can tip the scale, the less you judge other people, the less you will judge yourself. And then when they judge you, you become immune. Okay. And the other rule you have to adopt, and I picked up this from the book, The Four Agreements, is I do not take anything personally. That is an agreement I made. I like that agreement that he suggested in his great book, The Four Agreements. Do not take anything personally. What other people say and do is not about you. It's how they see you and the world and judge through their own agreements. And a lot of people have some really distorted agreements. I mean, just talk to your friends over dinner and just listen to some of the things that they believe. Oh my God. Don't judge them though. Okay. So that's how you do it. It's a simple rule to follow. Our criticisms of ourselves cause us to feel lousy about ourselves. And when we don't feel good, we turn to coping mechanisms to make us feel better. But it's temporary and it's harmful. So I know that you're turning to negative habits, coping mechanisms, negative habits, whether it's food or it's too much alcohol or marijuana is popular these days. It's legal in more parts of the world. I mean, we turn to these negative things to make us feel better. And so if you've got negative habits like that, you can eliminate those habits. You don't have to stop them. I was talking to a client of mine. He was really struggling with alcohol. And for years he tried all these different things to quit drinking, and he joined AA, and he had all these different things he was doing, and I said, and he's been sober. I think he's been sober. This is his first Christmas. I forget how long he's been sober. Anyway, this guy's sober permanently. He will never go back and drink. I said, you know what you should do, dude? You should keep drinking. He goes, what? I said, keep drinking. I said, I want you to change your attitude towards yourself and stop criticizing, stop judging yourself. And so he did more of that. And the more he started to treat himself better, the more he started to treat himself better. So if you're not treating yourself very well in the outside world, all you got to do is start treating yourself better on the inside world. But what you do is, because you're not treating yourself well on the outside world, you judge and criticize yourself, and you keep fostering this negative self-image. Okay, well, you got to start from the inside. Now, in my book, what I laid out in that book was a way to rid yourself of your mistaken identity and get rid of all this inner negative dialogue once and for all. Put an end to it, quiet it, take control of it, right? You become the boss of your ego, not the other way around, right? And so what happens is, if you're judgmental and critical towards yourself, then that's going to eat away at you, right? And it's going to cause negative emotions, right? And those negative emotions show up physically. I got a message from a client yesterday, the day before. She said, like, I'm really struggling with depression, Doug. Like, I can't get up. I'm really struggling. And the reason that she's depressed is because what she's saying to herself, And I wrote her back. I said, you're not suffering from depression. The key word is today. So her message opened up. Today, I'm suffering from depression. I said, the operative word is today. I bet you that any money tomorrow, you're not going to be. Or maybe you will, but maybe the next. This too shall pass. And so if you criticize yourself and you judge yourself, then you're not going to feel good. And we don't like to not feel good. How you doing, Doug? Oh, I'm feeling a little off today. The Australians go, I'm feeling flat. Well, we have these words for when we don't feel good. I'm a little down. I'm a little off. I'm a little flat, And I said to this lady, I said, it's okay to be depressed. It's not very good to think about being depressed when you're depressed. Because when you're depressed, you're negative, in a negative state of mind and a negative physical state, you don't think very well. You think a lot of shit up. I always tell people, if you're depressed, don't think. Go watch a movie or something. Distract yourself. Because when we don't feel good, we make a lot of stuff up. Okay. And so it's just this vicious circle. And when we don't feel good, we turn to the coping mechanisms. And then, we wake up the next day and go, I'm not doing that anymore. Damn it. And then, of course, you do it again. Right. And so this is all an inside job. Right. Now, when we cave into our bad habits, and we promise that we're going to stop it and change, and we don't, we judge ourselves even more. So each time you make this heroic vow of amendment, and then you can't keep it because the inner dialogue is so critical and so judgmental, it makes you feel like shit, that makes you do shit. Okay. Well, it's this vicious circle. And then you turn on yourself and you're hard on yourself. And so you form the habit of staying stuck because you're in the habit of treating yourself the wrong way. That's the bottom line. Okay. You have this mistaken identity and you're not very nice to yourself. So nothing changes. And so nothing changes. So if you want to make 2024 better, I'm going to try to give you some do's and don'ts. Okay. So grab a pen. I'm just going to rifle off 10 things here. You might want to consider them. If it resonates, write it down. All right. Number one, if you're going to attempt to form habits, start with something simple. Okay. If you're going to attempt to form habits, start with something simple. The cool thing about habit forming is that, like I said at the beginning of the call, we don't like to disrupt our habitual behavior. We're trying to form new habits, but yet we don't like our habits being interrupted. Okay. So I think what you need to do is you need to nudge your habits gently. I wouldn't poke the bear if I were you. Okay. I would just do something kind of sneaky in the background, something simple, something your ego's not going to notice. Well, maybe you just go, you know what? I'm going to drink an 8 ounce glass of water every hour, set an alarm, and I don't think your ego is going to latch on it. I don't think it's going to even know what the hell you're doing. Right? I would just set an alarm and I just start drinking lots of water. I mean, that habit alone is going to help you with your health. Okay. But what the cool thing about habit forming is that when you form positive habits and you stick with it, okay, you get this dopamine hit and it makes you feel good about yourself. Right. And so you can actually form difficult habits by forming simple habits. What we got to do is we got to build up some wins, okay? Because you're a loser. Now, what do I mean by that? You're losing at trying to win because of how you're treating yourself, right? So I would just quietly, sneakily grab a couple simple habits and just start working on that. I work with a lot of people one-on-one, and they're constantly talking about these habits they want to change. And I just tell them, I said, I wouldn't bother. Like my friend, I said, just keep drinking. Just keep drinking. And I'm going to get you to do a couple other things that are easier. And if you do these other things, I guarantee you, you will stop drinking. And if he was on here, he would attest to this conversation. Number two, be patient. Right? Be patient. It took you a long time to build up these negative habits. You've been doing them for a long time. Be patient. Okay? Habits, forming habits takes time. And you're going to miss. You're going to miss a lot of days in the beginning. You're going to have more misses than you're going to have hits. That's a reality. Right? And don't buy into the bullshit that you read in books and see online about habit forming. They're lying to you. I'm here to give it to you straight. All right. I'm not here to sell you anything or I'm just here to just straighten shit out for you. Okay. I'm 60 years old. I suffered more than all of you combined. I took care of the suffering for you. Okay. I suffered a lot. I'm not minimizing your suffering, but I put myself through a lot of suffering. And so I'm just trying to minimize your suffering as you go forward. Number three, lighten up and smarten up. Okay. Be kind to yourself. Lighten up on yourself. Right? Life is not supposed to be hard. You make it hard. Right? Lighten up. Right? Be kind to yourself. Don't criticize yourself or beat yourself up. That's dumb. When I say lighten up and smart up, it's dumb to criticize yourself. Right? It's not an intelligent thing to do. It's a habit, but it's not an intelligent thing to do. So just go, you know what? I'm just going to lighten up. I'm not going to be so hard on myself. Number four, we've talked about this. Don't judge yourself. Number five, there's a chapter in my book called Stop Shooting on Yourself. Okay. Stop shooting on yourself. Stop telling yourself what you should do. Okay. You should do this and you should do that. You shouldn't do that. Stop using that word. Okay. I wanted to name the chapter Stop Shitting on Yourself. It's called Stop Shooting on Yourself. Okay. But that's what we do. And everybody else does it to you too. Oh, Lori, you should. John, you should. Well, Susan, you shouldn't have done that. I know. Why'd you do it? I don't know. Right? Stop shooting on yourself. Only attempt to form one habit at a time. Okay. If you want to form any habits, and I tell people this all the time. In fact, my friend, the drinker, one of the habits he would make these heroic vows of amendment and he'd send me a picture. He'd make up a list of the 10 things, his 10 new habits. My life is going to look like this. And I would just put a little heart on it. I go, God bless you. I said, I wouldn't do it that way if I were you. But hey, who am I to judge, right? And he had to learn the hard way. I don't know how many times, at least, for sure, maybe 6 or 8 times, he made these heroic vows of amendment to me because he wanted me to put him on the hook. That this is my new life. This is my new day. This is my checklist. Every day I'm going to check these off. I go, oh my God, he's not going to do that. Like it was never going to happen, right? But he had to learn that himself, right? Only form one new habit. I kept telling him that one. He'd come back with 2. Is that too much? I go, what did I say? I said 1. You have 2. That's too much. One habit at a time. All right. And you'll know when it's a habit when you no longer have to think about it. Then add another habit. Okay. If you do it that way, realistically, you could probably form 6 to 12 new positive habits by the end of the year, where they just become automatic, right? It could take you 20, 30, 45 days, depending on how strongly your mistaken identity is opposed to the habit you're trying to form. But if you just took one at a time and just build up some wins, your life would look dramatically different. I've not met a lot of people that I've worked with that follow that advice. They don't, I don't know, they don't believe me, I guess, or their programming is stronger in the other direction. I don't know. Number 7, don't set yourself up for failure or judgment by making promises to others. Okay. Keep your mouth shut. Okay. Stop telling people what you're going to do. Okay. It's one thing to make heroic vows of amendment and break them to yourself. It's another thing to break them to others. Okay. Do not make heroic vows of amendment if the same old lawbreaker is to keep them. All right. You're going to let people down. You're going to let yourself down. And you're gonna judge yourself more. Just walk the talk. Okay. Show results, not empty promises. Right. Just vow that you are going to demonstrate through your results, not through your words. You're going to erode your self-worth by doing that. Now, number 8, rather than trying to change habits, change your opinion of yourself. I'd rather see you guys work on changing your opinion of yourself than changing habits. I have a lot of people who I've helped change their opinion of themselves, and their habits have changed almost automatically. Okay. Bad habits fall away, like the drinking, the drugs, the judgment, the criticism. So rather than trying to change habits, change your opinion of yourself. The self-talk and behaviors would disappear if you liked yourself more. Okay. If you can change your mistaken identity, what Michael Singer, Untethered Soul, beautiful book, called your inner roommate. Okay. If you can rid yourself of your mistaken identity and you separate, or what he said, untether yourself, your true self, from your ego self, or what he called your inner roommate, if you can separate yourself from your mistaken identity and operate as your true self, the self-talk will start to quiet down. Okay. And when you like yourself more, you treat yourself better, and the habits will form automatically. Okay. The biggest challenge in forming habits to change is how you see yourself. That's the ticket. Okay. That is the key. Number 9. This is what I told my friend about drinking. Practice seeing yourself as the sort of person that has the habits that you want. So I just got him I said, keep drinking, but I want you to see yourself as the sort of person that has the healthy habits that you want. So rather than trying to force a habit and try to break a habit, just start practicing seeing yourself as that sort of person. And what sort of person doesn't drink and eat all night and stay up late? And so he started to define the sort of person that person would be. And that was, again, all about changing. So first, what he had to do is he had to see the outside, someone else, as that sort of person. He couldn't see himself that way because he had a mistaken identity. But I got him to take a look at someone else that would be that sort of person. And then when he started to look at that sort of person, and we can do this a lot, there's all kinds of people you can look at and go, you know what? I could do what they're doing. I could achieve what they're achieving. I can do that. When you really take a close look at other people, you'll see they're not much different than you, and that you are capable of what they're capable of. So I got him to see that sort of person. And as he saw that sort of person, guess what he saw? He had a reflection coming back to him, and his inner image of him started to change. And then he quit, and he never went back. And he won't go back. Okay. Now, it's possible for people, you have a real severe thing in your life, an accident or something really dramatic happen. You may end up having something really dramatic happen like that just hits you so hard that you re-trigger your mistaken identity and you turn on yourself again, and then you go back to some of the coping habits. But I'm pretty confident now, because he's rid himself of his mistaken identity, and he's rid himself of a lot of judgment and criticism. In fact, I got a message from him over Christmas because, man, oh man, Doug, he says, this is the best Christmas ever. He's like, I can't believe how little I judge and criticize myself. I can't believe how much I did that to myself. Okay. And number 10, the only habit you need to form is forming the habit of affirming positive statements of who you are. That's all you got to do. Right? I am. Now, you can't lie to your subconscious, folks. You got to get that straight. Okay. Any that's affirming I am a billionaire, I would stop doing that. You're not a billionaire. Okay. You can say, my income is increasing each and every year, and I'm moving towards billionaire status. I mean, that's more accurate. Okay. I'm just giving you a silly example, but you can't lie to your subconscious. But you can, if you rid yourself of your mistaken identity, you can start to affirm some things that are true. And you can start making these I am statements. And that is really all you need to do. So the single resolution you need to make that will make 2024 better is to resolve to rid yourself of your mistaken identity. That's the only resolution. You need to resolve that you're going to change. That's the only resolution. Don't resolve to make these heroic vows of amendment. Don't do that. Okay. If you want to change, if you want to make change your life, decide that you're going to change. And if you don't want to make change your life, you're not ready for that change, that's fine. Right. But don't make these promises that you can't keep if you're not going to change. Now, this is what's been running the show your whole life. And it's actually really quite simple to change. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, you know, the old line, it's a lot easier said than done. It is actually quite easy, and it can be done quite simply. Now, I didn't believe that. I didn't think that was actually true. It took me a little while to accept the idea that I could quite simply change my mistaken identity and do it quite fast. And it took a mentor of mine. It took me a while to believe him and to trust him because I had some real trust issues, you know, from where I came from as a kid. And, you know, like I had a very, very wise mentor, and it took me a while to finally listen. But when I did, it all started to click. And so there is a simple way and there is a hard way. Now, my way wasn't working. And so obviously I was bright enough to figure, all right, I better try a better way. And so I finally said, all right, I'm willing to accept the idea that this is simple, that it's not all that complicated or hard, that can actually happen quite quickly. Because he said to me, he said, Doug, I can't help you if and until you accept the idea that this is actually quite simple. So if you're ready to change, then at least, if you're not ready to change, sorry, then at least change the way you approach this year. So if you're not willing to change, here's what I'm suggesting you do. You're up against some pretty strong influences, folks. Okay, you got a lot of influencers in your life. All right, you got your mistaken identity, real strong influence. All right, you've got the outside world, judgment, conformity, fear of criticism. The media has more access to you now than ever. You struggle to get ahead in your life, and then of course you blame yourself. You might turn to other people for advice. I mean, I have the ability to get to the heart of what's going on for you pretty quickly. I probably have to talk to you for maybe 5-10 minutes, ask you a few questions, and I just have to listen to your dialogue, and I know likely what's going on for you. And I likely know what happened to you when you were young. All I need is just a few words out of your mouth, and I can pretty much pick up on it like that. And time again, I keep hearing the same thing from people that I work with. They go, I've tried everything. You know, I've done hypnotherapy, Reiki therapy. I've been to therapy and counseling. I've done this, I've done that. I've done all these things, and nothing has actually ever worked. And so there's a lot of outside influences, and there's a lot of information out there that you have access to through your phone and through your computer. And it actually it's just confusing you more than anything. So let me give you a few suggestions. Next year and all the years after can be better. But the problem is you're confused, it's frustrating, and it's no wonder people form the habit of staying stuck. So let's just try to clear up the confusion real fast. It's your mistaken identity that has you confused. Okay. If you feel confusion and frustration and you're struggling and you're stuck, it's your mistaken identity that's got you confused. Okay. Your true self is your authentic self has been confused by your mistaken identity, this inner roommate. I call it your cellmate. If you're searching for problems in books and programs, you probably have too much information. You're probably too smart for your own good. Okay. I was talking to a guy the other week in California. I mean, this guy should be, I don't know what he is. He should be a rocket scientist. I mean, the guy's brilliant. And I said to him, I said, he was going on for like an hour and a half. Like he just didn't stop talking. And he was on the call because he wanted our help. And at the end, I said, dude, you're too smart for your own good. I said, you wanted me to help you. And for an hour and a half, you've been pontificating about like useless information. I mean, very intelligent guy. Like, I mean, he was quoting, I don't know who he was quoting. I mean, people I never heard of, but anyway, I said, you're just too smart for your own good because we've gathered so much information. If you've tried this and then tried that and tried this and tried that and then done this and done that, and you're still stuck, you have too much information and you're actually choosing to confuse yourself. But it is simple to clear out. All right. So let me give you two roads you can take. All right. And then we're going to wrap this up. There's two roads you can take to break this habit of staying stuck. You can take the slow road or you can take the fast road. The slow road, it's a better path than what you're on now. Okay. And so I'd suggest that there's some things that you stop doing. Okay. If you're not really willing to do what you need to do to make the changes, then I would take a different road and I would go down this path. It's not very populated. So, you might find yourself a little lonely sometimes. It's not very busy, so you won't get, bumped into too many problems, but it is a better road. So here's a few things I'd suggest that you do. Now, before I do that, if you want the fast route, I have a 45 days to upgrade your life I take people through. If you want to hear about what that 45 days is, stick around and I'll share that with you. But before you go, if those of you aren't ready to make the change, I do want to leave you with some suggestions. And before I do that, Tyson, do you mind just dropping the link into the chat where we're going to give you a free copy? You haven't got my book yet. I'll give you a free e-copy, and you can get that. There's a link in the chat. If you want to just open that up for a second, you can just click that on your phone or your browser, and then you can go there later and grab that book, and we'll send that to you. Okay. And if anybody's interested in the 45 days and you're going to stick around for that, Tyson, you can drop the link for that before I wrap up here. So if you're not ready to do the work for a quick fix, then let me suggest a few things, right? So it's interesting because we all want a quick fix. Okay, we are now in an environment, a world where we have everything at our fingertips. The conveniences that we have, the access to things we have, it's so easy to get what we want quickly. I mean, Amazon is probably the biggest example, right? One click and it's at your door in 4 minutes or something like that. I think they're now up to delivery time before you make the order. I mean, it's just, you can get stuff so quickly and so easily, right? We all want a quick fix, but we're not prepared to do the work. Okay. So if you're not ready to do the change, I want to leave you with these 5 points, right? Number one, just make a decision and resolve that you're going to be yourself. Okay. Resolve that you're going to be yourself. Yolanda is on here. Yolanda went through the 45 days and I always misquote it. How did you say it? Yolanda, how did you say that? Let me ask her to unmute. She says, what did you say about becoming your own best friend?
If you really want to become your own best friend, you have to follow this program.
Yeah, that's it. If you want to become your own, right? That's what I'd love to see for yourself. If you're not prepared to make the changes, just at least do that. All right. Become your own best friend. Right. And the best way to do that is to be yourself. Okay. Now that's difficult because there's a lot of conformity. And so see if you can sneak out of the room. All right. When you're at a party I was watching a Netflix series last night called Succession, and it's about this billionaire, and there's this function he has to go to. He said, I'm only staying for the soup, and then I'm going to say I got called. I'm going to leave the room. I'm not staying there, right? You wanted to get the hell out of the room. You know when you want to sneak out of the room, you're at a party, you want to just sneak away, all right? Well, just start to sneak away from the influence of others, right? Sneak away from conformity. Don't tell people where you're going. Just sneak out. They won't even notice, right? Um, Spend less time with people that don't treat you well, right? Um, don't go as often to places where you're around people that are judgmental and critical. I remember sitting around a table one night. Um, I was married at the time to Ian's mom, and we were sitting around, and it was in the mortgage business, and Ian's mom's in the real estate business, and a bunch of realtors sitting around a room, and I noticed something, and I was just there quietly. I really want to pay attention, and all they were doing was talking about other people, friends, and people in their office. All they were doing was judging and criticizing. I'm watching going, and I drove home and I said, "Do you ever wonder what they're saying about us?" She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, if they're doing that to other people that are in the room, they must be doing it to us, right?" And that really struck me. And so I started to detach myself from people. Doug, let's get can't make it. Busy. Actually, you guys are lucky because the new narrative today is you can't even get together with people without texting them and setting up an appointment to get on Zoom to make some plans to go out for dinner next month. So it's very easy to distance yourself from people. All right. Just distance yourself from conformity. Right. If you're around anything or anyone that's putting pressure on you to conform, distance yourself from conformity. Try to escape the exposure to media. Okay. You guys have no idea. Maybe you do. I've got a very strong intuition, and I can see things that a lot of people can't see. And what the media is doing to you, and I'm not, this is not some conspiracy theory or anything like that, right? But this exposure to media is harming you, okay? Because you don't understand how your mind works, right? Your mind is a depository, right? It's wide open, right? And the media just drops in information, right? I'm in New York City, and there's a lot of media around. I mean, you can't escape it. The taxi cab, there's a screen going. There's screens all around. All the buildings. It's everywhere, right? Try to escape some exposure to the media, right? Number 4, don't set resolutions and don't make promises you can't keep. I'd rather you do these first 3 things. In fact, if you could just start practicing being yourself, you'll actually start liking yourself. You'll like the person that you meet, And if you distance yourself from conformity and the other people that aren't treating you or other people very well, and you can disconnect from the media a little bit, chances are you'll probably see your life change. And you might not have to make any resolutions at all. And some of your negative habits will fall away. A lot of your negative habits are because of these other things. And the last thing is just lighten up and relax this year. Why don't you give yourself a break this year? Why don't you say 2024 is going to be the most relaxed year yet? All right. 2024 is going to be the lightest year yet. 2024 is going to be the easiest year yet. 2024, I'm just going to cut myself some frickin' slack. I'd rather see you do that. Because if you don't, I'm telling you, people always say, well, you're going to be in the same place next year. No, you're going to be in a worse place next year. Okay. Because guess what, folks? All of you are getting older and your body is getting weaker. And if your mind isn't getting stronger, your body's getting weaker faster. And what's going into your mind is poisoning you, and it's hurting you, and it's harming you. And so you're not going to be in the same place next year. You're going to be in the worst place next year. So if I were you, I would just maybe disconnect from some of this junk and lighten up a little bit. And have a nice, relaxed year. Yeah, Sophie put in, we are disintegrating, right? We literally are. Anyway, let me talk to you real quick about this 45 days. If you don't want to stick around, if you're not ready to change, leave. I don't want any non-changers. I know lawbreakers on the call. No, I'm kidding. Now stick around if you want to hear about it. Real fast. I don't want to take too much of your time. Um, I realized after years of suffering, years of study, years of struggle, years of success too, striving and straining to be somebody I wasn't. I realized I was doing it wrong. I use that a lot now. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me. I was just doing it wrong, right? There's nothing wrong with you. You're probably just doing some things wrong. And I wrote that book, Mistaken Identity, and I knew that I had a formula to rid myself of my mistaken identity and help others do the same, because that was what everybody was suffering with. Everybody I talked to, same thing. I knew that I could undo it. I undid it for myself. I was undoing it for others, and I finally got the courage up to write the book. My own mistaken identity got in the way of me writing the book, but I finally wrote the book. And when I wrote the book, I gave it to the publisher. I said, listen, I do not want to publish this book unless this book is really good and it actually works. I wanted to write a book that works. And I knew it would work, but I was afraid that it wouldn't for you. I was afraid that, people, in the media or wherever, when they interviewed me when the book came out, they would criticize me. I don't have degrees, or I don't have any authority. I got none of all that. And I was, afraid of what the mental health system might, say about what I was talking. I was very afraid. But finally, I got the courage up and I went ahead and I published it. And the book came out, and it came out in April. And I worked with a bunch of people. I had a bunch of people volunteer to go through the book with me. And the book really worked. People always ask me, how's the book going, Doug? I said, I always answer, the book is doing great work. The book really works. It does really great work. It is a system. It is a process. Alex, my assistant on the call here on my team, she said, Doug, this is literally like a program in a book. And I put it together that way. I wanted, because people are coming to me and go like, how'd you do it, Doug? And I wanted to be able to hand you something that you could do the same thing. I got a text from somebody this morning or last night saying, hey, do you have anything, because they couldn't make the call. They said, do you have anything in writing about, resolutions and habit forming and stuff? That, like, they were looking for something in writing, some instructions. And so I wanted to make an instruction manual. So it's very instructive. It's very prescriptive. It really actually works. And I was seeing amazing things happen for people. Health problems going away, income, people in poor situations, financial, all kinds of things happening. And they would report to me. And I started working with people one-on-one. Anybody came to me and said, look, I'll work with you, but the only way I'm going to work with you one-on-one is if you go through the book, because I don't care how well you're doing. In fact, I just brought a new lady on in Europe. We have a call next week. She is in the top of her field. 7-figure income, high 7 figures. And she called me up. She said, will you help me? She said, I got nowhere to turn. Because she's a high income earner in the public eye, she's got nobody that she can go to tell what's really going on. And within about a half an hour, there was her mistaken identity right there on the screen, on the Zoom screen. And it's really holding her back. And it was very obvious. There was 2 key issues. And it's very obvious where those 2 key issues came from, but she can't get rid of them. I said, we'll get rid of this in less than a month. I'm only work with you for a month, because she's a high achiever. She's very aware. I know that with my book and a few calls over the course of the month of January, we'll have this resolved for once and for all. Okay. So for some people, the book really, really works. But for most people, their mistaken identity is stronger than the book. Then, I work with people, and I did some coaching with people. And I mean, I can't talk to everybody because I don't have that much time, but I talk to as many people as I can, and I try to encourage them. And, some conversations with me and the book, that helps. We created some little book lessons, little videos to go with the book. We give those away for free for people to buy the book. And that was working, but it still wasn't working for everybody. It's not working for enough people. And I thought, what the hell am I going to do? And I got this idea. I know that I'm stronger than your mistaken identity. There's nobody on this call that's stronger than me. Nobody. And with me and my book and that instruction manual, I know that I can beat your mistaken identity up all day long. I thought, if I can just get my hands on you and I could spend some time with you every day with the book, there's 30 chapters in the book, and I prescribe that you do one chapter a day. There's one chapter, they're 3 or 4 minutes long to read it. The little video that goes with it is like 5 or 6 minutes. And there's a couple questions at the back, literally another 5 minutes. So it's about 5, 10, 15. It's about 15, 20 minutes a day. And if anybody's doing it any longer than that, they're overthinking it. They're not following my instructions. And so I made the lessons up, and that worked. But it still wasn't enough. And so I thought, if I could just be with you every day for 30 days in a row, and we work with each chapter, and I work with you on the chapter, and I get you to take the action steps in the chapter. I get you to actually do the work so the book can work on you. I always tell people, don't buy this book or read this book to fix yourself. Okay? There's nothing wrong with yourself, right? There's some things that are wrong about what you believe about yourself, but there's nothing wrong with you. So don't buy a book to fix yourself. Let this book work on you. There's nothing for you to do. All you have to do is read and answer my questions, and let the book work on you, because it does work on you. And so I wanted to create this program where I could be with you for 30 days in a row. So we call it 45 days to upgrade your life, because what we do is we're kicking off our next one January 19th, I think. And we start on the 19th. It's a Friday. We're going to have a meetup with all the people that are going to be in it. We only take 20 people, because I want to be able to spend the time with you. And then every day, 5 days a week for 6 weeks, I'm with you. Every day, 5 days a week, 6 weeks, live. These aren't recordings. I'm working with you live. And we go through the book together. And there's people that are on this call that have done that. And they're here, and they're coming back to it again. And they're bringing people back to the next one as well. And so this 45 days is called 45 Days to Upgrade Your Life. And what I do is I take you through the book step by step, and I get you to take action, and I get you to let the book work on you. And my biggest job in these 45 days is just to convince you that this is simple. That's my biggest job. Okay? Because you're gonna make it complicated. We had some people on our first round. The last round, it took me a while to get through them. There was a couple of people they were really difficult. Their mistaken identity was pretty tough, and they had some pretty strong beliefs and perceptions. They were wrong, but they were really, really locked into those, And so it took a little while for me to convince them how simple and easy it was. And so what I want to do is invite you to talk with me about that. If anything I've talked to you about today on this call around mistaken identity resonates with you, if you're staying stuck, if you form the habit of staying stuck, if you're giving yourself a hard time, if you're struggling or suffering in your life and you're giving yourself a hard time, you don't like yourself, you criticize yourself, you judge yourself, you might not do anything, but you might doubt yourself. If you're stuck, there's a reason you're stuck, and you haven't uncovered it. And this book will reveal it, it will uncover it, and it will change it fast, like lightning fast. There is a quick fix, but it's not easy. And so if you want a quick fix, you have to be prepared to do the hard work. Now, it's not all that hard. It just feels hard, because your ego, your mistaken identity, doesn't like it, doesn't like the change, and it puts up a lot of resistance. And so now I want to invite you to talk about that. Tyson dropped a link in there. You can go to the website and you can check it out. We have an info session coming up where you can come on there, and I'll tell you more about how it works exactly. Or if you want to get on a call with me and see if this is right for you, I just want to be really clear. I do not sell anything to anybody unless it's a good fit. I will not sell this program to you unless it's a good fit. And so I want to have a chat with you. I want to have a little assessment. And I want to ask you some questions. I want to make sure that A, you're ready for it, and B, this is actually going to work for you. You can give it a try. And if you get into it and you feel it's not right for you, you can have your money back. No questions asked. Okay. I want to just change the world and end all the suffering that people are experiencing. And if you're having troubles and struggles, let's have a chat or check out the page, come to the info session. And I'd love to see you in my next 45 days. But we'll be back here every couple of weeks. I'm committed to delivering information to you every couple of weeks. Simple, direct, practical, actionable things you should do and don't do in order to help you get ahead, build a life you're proud of. And I'll do my best to help make your 2024 the best year ever. So I want to thank you for coming on, and I appreciate you taking your time. You spent your time to be here. I appreciate you spending that. And I look forward to seeing you on another one of these classes, or maybe I'll see you in the 45 days. Have a great week, everybody. Happy New Year. Take care.